Michael Heorger, and this is the book release for Edible Secrets, a food tour of classified U.S. history. So Edible Secrets is a book that has collected declassified documents that all have a recurring theme of food. Each document is sort of covers a different historical narrative of the last century, from the Black Panther Party to Fidel Castro assassination attempts to Reaganomics. So while I was doing research on the Black Panther Party, going through declassified documents, there was a computer database, and I thought it'd be interesting to see if Jello Biafra had a file, which I'm sure he does, but I did not find it. But I came across Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, who were two communists that were executed by the U.S. government in the 50s, basically for being communists. And the only evidence in their trial was a Jello box, and I was just really fascinated, that this Jello box was such a large component of the CIA document about this couple that was executed. And I had already had a Fred Hampton document. Fred Hampton was a Black Panther, about him stealing some ice cream, and just sort of the gears started turning in my head, and I was like, And so I just started looking up other food items in this database, and then over the years when I would go to different libraries to look at declassified documents, I'd kind of keep my eye out, and after 3 or 4 years I sort of had all these food documents and started to do sort of a traveling museum with them, and then was approached by Microcosm to turn it into a book.
I'm Mia Partlow, and I helped write the essays for the book. I really like the idea of those books that you have when you're 14 and 15, and you're just really inspired by them, and you learn so much, and then they really influence what else you learn after that. And so that's sort of was my intention and how I approached the essays. And I mean, that was a challenge for me because I'd only done academic writing, and so to try to do this writing that was supposed to be for this younger audience, but also really serious and taking them seriously too, was a challenge. So that was the idea, and then we just sort of Michael and I went back and forth about what we wanted the essays to focus on based on what graphics we had.
Michael and I lived together for about 3.5 years from the time we moved here many moons ago. And as what turned into Edible Secrets emerged, Michael would excitedly, show up in the evening with some sort of new evidence, or basically a new food category would open up. As this began to crystallize into a larger project, the next logical step was simply an art show around the notion of Edible Secrets themselves. I wound up just doing a little 3D diorama for Fidel Castro and his poison milkshake. And then from that, I had just a really good time, and it was really fun to do a diorama. I hadn't done one since I was 6. It was awesome. And then so Michael and I started okay, I think this is going to go somewhere. So basically, once the chapters and the subjects got finalized, then Michael just sort of approached me, from upstairs in the house to downstairs. I was like, hey! It's you should do some illustrations for each chapter. I was like, perfect.
So one of the chapters in the book is called Secret Castro Milkshake. As it turns out, Fidel Castro, former revolutionary leader of Cuba, has a favorite food, and that favorite food is a chocolate milkshake. It's more than his favorite food. He's been quoted as saying he's addicted to chocolate milkshakes, and he has one every single day.
He doesn't ask for much.
And in the 60s and 70s, Fidel would go to this same hotel every day to get his chocolate milkshake at the same time. And so all the tourists that were in Cuba in the 60s and 70s, if you wanted to see Fidel Castro on your trip to Cuba, you would go to this hotel at 2 in the afternoon, and you'd be able to see him. Well, this information, of course, wasn't lost on the Central Intelligence Agency, so the CIA hooked up with the mob who was trafficking goods to Cuba at the time, and sent this Cuban agent down there with some cyanide, and her purpose was to get the cyanide in his chocolate milkshake. And so she found this kitchen worker at the hotel who seemed was down and gave him the cyanide pill, and sort of from there, it depends who you ask what happened. Fidel likes to tell the story that the kitchen worker saw Fidel come in and, of course, chickened out, because who could ever attempt to murder the great Fidel Castro? And so he chickened out, and Fidel knew he was going to do it that day, but knew he would chicken out, so he drank that milkshake anyway. The CIA claims the cyanide pill broke apart when it froze in the freezer while it was hiding to... the guy had hid the pill to assassinate him. But to this day, Fidel Castro still enjoys his milkshakes, and there's actually a picture in the book when Fidel was in the hospital a couple of years ago, and Hugo Chavez came and visited them, and the two of them are in the hospital pictured enjoying milkshakes. He's a committed man.